Welcome to Healthcare's Missing Link, a weekly podcast to help you uncover hidden things that steal your health. Thanks for joining us today. Here's your host, Dr. Mark Sherwood.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Healthcare's Missing Link, a podcast, video cast, where we help you uncover those things that are missing from your health. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Sherwood, as always, and it's my always endeavor to try to uncover those things that are really taking away your best health. And sometimes the thing that takes away your best health is not having hope. It is my honor today to introduce a brand new friend, a brand new guest to our show that is the epitome of overcoming a journey through hell, literally. And he has walked through hell. He didn't stay there, but he walked through hell and now is living hope. This young man has been through a lot. I won't go into all his story, but Abe Cruz is a story of overcoming. He has had setback after setback, and his setbacks didn't cause him to take a step back. They caused him to step up and speak up for a cause higher than himself. Folks, welcome to the podcast, Abe Cruz. Abe, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sherwood. I am so grateful. It's a privilege. It's an honor. And really, it truly is. So thank you so much for having me on.
So, Abe, let's get into this, man. For people that don't know you, tell them a little bit about your background and what you're doing now.
Well, a little bit about my background. I was born and raised on the West Coast. So I'm a LA kid, East LA, grew up in the hood. Athletics was truly my blessing. Being able to play sports, football, and basketball, that took me out of that poverty. I was fortunate to go to some great schools, some private Catholic schools, played sports throughout high school, college. I was always a go-getter. I was very ambitious, and you could potentially call me selfish at a young age. I think many of us are when we're younger, right? It's because we don't know any better. And if you don't have the right father figures or you don't have the right direction in your life, that's what ends up happening. I didn't have a father. He left when I was 4 years old. So it was my mom raising my other brother and my sister, 3 people in a 1-bedroom apartment. Four people, including my mom, 4 people in a 1-bedroom apartment, really the majority of my childhood and my teens. So but those were some of the best years of my life. You know, I'm so grateful and fortunate to think back about those times.
Now, Abe, you know, you grew up and yes, it was hard. And yes, you excelled in athletics. And then you got out of athletics and you ended up getting involved in something else. Tell us about that.
Well, so yes, before I don't know if you're referring to me getting in trouble or getting into something else, but part of my book, there's stages.
Both. Yes,
yeah.
both. Yeah.
So, you know, my dreams ultimately were to make it out of the hood and become a professional athlete. And I truly believe I had what it took to make it to the NFL or to the NBA. But as I got to college, I made a lot of bad decisions in high school that affected my college and where I was headed to. I didn't score very high on my SAT scores. My grade point average dropped below average in high school. I was a high school All-American who was a blue chip recruit, being recruited by Notre Dame and Florida and Nebraska and Tennessee. But my GPA was low. I ended up getting hurt. I tore a meniscus disc. Now I had all odds against me. So I started, you know, it was a tough time, but, you know, I thank the Lord still for the opportunities. I ended up going to a school in Wisconsin, the University of Wisconsin-Stout. It was a D3 school. And I had some success there as a true freshman. I was very grateful for it. But this is where we get into the transition. I won a conference championship my freshman year in college as a true freshman. So that was a great accomplishment. But I went back to LA for the summer for a quick little vacation so I could come back to summer camp, you know, Hell Week for football as a sophomore. And what ended up happening was I started seeing a bunch of 19, 20, and 21-year-olds driving a bunch of Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Bentleys. So, you know, for somebody that grew up in poverty to see all of that, and some of these were some of my old friends. So I was totally in awe by it. And I said, well, wait a minute, what is going on? I'm over here in Wisconsin as a freshman, as an athlete. We don't get to work in the NCAA. We don't get jobs. I was cutting hair on the side to make some extra dollars. So I came home and I saw everybody successful making money. It caught my interest, and it was a network marketing company. The company was called, I probably shouldn't mention it now, but it was the past, but it was network marketing. And pretty much what happened was I got involved, started making money, took it to college. I was the first person in the Midwest in Wisconsin to introduce this business opportunity. And before you knew it, I started making thousands of dollars a week. There was a couple of $20,000 months, and we're talking me at 19 and 20 now. That's a lot of money for somebody that's never had it. So ultimately, I made the big decision to drop out of school in college. Wow. Although I was, focused and excited about the possibilities of going to the NFL or the NBA, I had, 6 months into it, and I almost had $100,000. So I left college. I dropped out. It was a big decision in my life. The mentors that were around me, they weren't necessarily all college graduates, but they were successful, and a lot of them were making six figures a month. So I don't, when you get into network marketing, what you hear is hang around successful people. You are who you become, or you are who you hang around with, right? And you're only as successful as the 5 closest friends that you associate with. So at that point, even though I was in college, I was on the phone every night with a multimillionaire. And I was learning from that mindset. I was learning from a different mindset. So although I dropped out of school and I put on hold the normal education, I was now being taught the entrepreneurial mindset. And I loved it.
That's good. So you really traded one education for the other education. And this is not a saying that, dropping out of college is right for everybody, nor are we saying it's wrong for people. We're saying that you got to follow where you're supposed to be. And you did that.
I can only speak on my behalf, right? This is my story. I'm not here to encourage anybody. I encourage people to stay in school. And I say that because the statistics are very low in order for you to know and understand what you're going to do if you actually leave school. The statistics are not high for you to succeed unless you're very highly driven, motivated. You got to be a self driver. You can't be one of these people that sleeps in every day. And, that's not the entrepreneur mindset.
So you did that and you were successful. I'm sure at that point that you were seeing yourself driving around the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris yourself at some point, right?
Well, to the story, what ended up happening before I dropped out, we had a Ferrari and an NSX shipped out to college, and the cars were driving around campus. They were driving around football practice. It became pretty crazy to where my coaches were like, Cruz, you're a distraction now. Yeah. So these are little parts of the story that you guys don't, that people won't know about. But what led me to dropping out is because I started to really hit levels of success. And before you knew it, my upline, my successors, they said, these are some of the things that are needed to get to the next level. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty actually funny to see the cars driving around campus in a college town.
So your coach is like, dude, I don't know if you're causing us to win or lose at this point, so you might want to consider going somewhere else.
Well, at this point, just keep in mind, my college career record was like the first year was 13-1. And I had won the first 3 games of the season. So I was at 16-1 at the university for my career there. And I wasn't a distraction to lose. I hadn't lost yet. The first game I quit, they lost.
Oh, no. And what position did you play again? Tell everybody.
I played defensive back. I transferred from offense to defense or back and forth. So I played multi positions. I also returned punts and kickoffs.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So, you're there and then college goes away and then you're into this entrepreneurial mindset business. And this is where I'm intrigued. And I know the audience, it took another turn, didn't it?
Well, it did, because we don't know this when we're in the middle of the fire, when we're in the middle of the journey. And I learned this phrase, and I say it now to help people. Fast cash means fast crash.
Wow, that's good. That's good. I hope everybody heard that.
That fast cash means fast crash. If you made it that quickly, believe that there's something bound to happen. That's not a sustainable, long-lasting business. And we don't know these things at 19 and 20. So it lasted for me for maybe a year, but I was already out of school for 4 or 5 months. I was driving around really the States. I went over to Minnesota, which was right next door, St. Paul, Minnesota. We went over to Chicago. I went over to some schools, Duluth, Duluth University, and some of the other ones out there. And that ride ended very quickly, abruptly. And so I'm actually a person who's very pro network marketing. I'm all for that world, because if you get the right type of training with the right type of leaders, you can become an incredible entrepreneur. Now, there's a lot of horror stories about people in network marketing. They lose their money. They never made money. And that is a reality. But a lot of people don't understand that's the life of an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter if you're network marketing or if you want to open up your own retail shop or business or whatever. It requires investment. It requires sacrifice, dedication, and it doesn't mean you're going to be successful.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah. So, but the stuff that you learn from network marketing is so incredible. Teamwork, building, working with individuals. I think Jim Rohn is the biggest thing that I took from it that I have to me today that I implement in my life now. And Jim Rohn, I read this quote. He said, the greatest service to mankind is finding a way to serve many people.
Mm-hmm.
So even though at a young age I was making money, I was excited. That was in the back of my mind. I hadn't hit level of success enough to really implement that. But I love that. It stuck with me. And now, fortunately, I'm here. We'll get to all of that. But, the business ended. My upline told me, Abe, save your money. The company's closing down. You got to figure out what you're going to do next. So I packed up my bags. I moved back to LA, had a little bit of money in my pocket, spent most of it hanging out in the Hollywood clubs, dating. I hung out at the Playboy Mansion a few times, and just that life of Hollywood. And very shortly, the money ran out. Mm-hmm. So now you're thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to sustain this lifestyle? And there's no normal jobs where you can make 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand in a month. Just not normal and basic. I mean, and then for you to put in that, it takes years of education to do that. So I started with 3 jobs. I went at 5 a.m. and I was personal training, the hustle in that world. And then I was doing half of it under the table, working at a gym and making money under the table the wrong way, right?
Yep.
So I did that hustle. And then throughout the day, I was at the real estate office. I was mortgages. I was doing loans. I was showing houses. I worked under the license of another mortgage company. It was great. I had a 90-10 split, so it wasn't bad.
Not bad.
But it was actually one of my clients who owned it. So I was fortunate there. And then at nighttime, I was doing club promotions. Mm-hmm. So 3 different things, hustling all day long, creating chaos really in my life at the time.
Well, and you're kind of a slave at this point to all of that thing, trying to keep up with a lifestyle that was, and now it wasn't. Now you're in a confused state.
Right.
And now you're building the suspense up. Then your life, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, all these twists and turns. Then what happened?
Well, so now I'm juggling all of the 3 things, right? And I'm making okay money. I'm not making great money, but I'm slaving, like you mentioned. I'm slaving just for that. I think at that point, everything becomes egotistical. People do things simply to look cool or to feel like they look cool in front of everybody else. And how come we're never taught this in school? We're not taught to stop worrying about them. I mean, your teacher says don't worry about them, but they don't teach us these things.
Mm-mm.
And I was trying to impress everybody, even if it was me spending my last $100. I was trying to impress a girl, spending it on her. Stupidities of life, the stupidities, just immaturity, egotistical arrogance. And I have to admit those things. I have to say it because I want to help our youth not make these same decisions. You know, we're here to help them now, right? We're older, we're families. So that's what we're here to do. But I was busy trying to impress everyone else. And one night I was driving home from the club. Literally, I did like a 48-hour shift where I was up at 5 a.m. at the real estate office, clubs at night. The night finished about 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. Make sure the club's cleaned up. I took my little cash that I made for the night, $1,000, put it in my pocket, and I drive to a client at 5 a.m.
Wow.
So I fell asleep behind the wheel. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't a drinker. I wasn't a person on drugs. That just wasn't me. I was a high life, energetic person, just on the go, energy drinks here and there. But I fell asleep behind the wheel and I hit somebody at like 4:55 a.m. I had a client at 5 a.m. I was pulling up from Orange County to Pasadena and I hit somebody. I just fell asleep coming up to a red light. I hit the car and that was like the shifting. That was the tilting point in my life. I hit a car. My mom needed money for rent. I was dating a girl who broke up with me like the week before, just spiraling out of control, fast cash, fast crash, living that kind of life. And this is where things get very crazy in life. On top of all the chaos, I'm going to clubs still, you know, and I made some money a couple of times at a hard body contest. Take your shirt off, dance around. I made $200-300 a night. Then I started going to other clubs and I made $500 a night. Now I'm not stripping. I'm not stripping or anything. Well, I guess I kind of am, just taking off my shirt, but
partial, I guess you could say partial.
Yeah, but it wasn't a strip club, just a regular nightclub. And that was easy. So I started looking for those kinds of things to make $500 a night, a pop, extra. And something happened where someone called me to Las Vegas to go and become an actual Chippendales or one of those hustler dancers. And they said, you can make $2,000 or $3,000 in a weekend. And I said, oh, I need that money. I just need it. So I actually took the drive from LA to Las Vegas, 3.5-hour drive. I get there, I walk into the club, and instantly my stomach, my heart, my head, everything started hurting. I said, okay, I'm not supposed to be here.
You knew at that point you were in a place you weren't supposed to be.
I just felt it. I just felt this is not for me. I can't be here. Nothing against anybody else. This is just, I just can't do it. I drive all the way back to LA and I'm just thinking like, what am I going to do? I just got into a car accident. This girl just broke my heart. And this girl, by the way, she had her friend call me to break up with me. It wasn't
nice.
She didn't even call me to tell me. Her friend called me and said, leave her alone, please.
Wow.
So I'm driving back to LA. Now I'm in a chaotic, horrible position in life. And someone I met at a club pretty much knew that I was down and out. I was at a state of depression. The car's all banged up. I'm low on cash, no money. And someone asked me, Abe, for everything that you're doing right now that's created all this chaos, how much money are you really making? And I said, not a lot. And they said, well, whatever you're making, I will show you how to make that money times 10 for everything that's taking you 4, 5, 6 months, a year to make. I'll show you how to make more than that in one weekend, 2 days. And I obviously caught my attention, and I said, I'm not killing anybody. I'm not a hitman. I'm not going to do nothing like that. And he says, no, it's nothing like that. Don't worry. I actually said no twice. I said no twice. I just didn't want to do it. I knew it was something wrong. And not even 2 weeks later, I ended up sending him a text and a phone call and said, hey, is that offer still on the table? And I said, what is it? So this becomes a movie now. And we're going to shoot a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
This becomes a movie, and I got to go meet over here and, sit down here. Someone will come talk to you and meet you here, and all these details that you see in movies. But the bottom line is they said, pick up this car at this time at such and such place and drive it here. Drop the car off, get into another vehicle, and just leave until we call you later. So I had to drive cross country.
Yep.
I drove a vehicle from LA across the country. It's in the book, a little bit of the details. I don't get too much into it, but I drove the car. I did what I had to do. I dropped it off, drove it all the way back to LA, and I was given a brown paper bag with my first payment of like $10,000.
Wow.
And
I'm sure that makes you want to do it again, maybe, right?
Especially for the fact that I took the 10 grand, put a down payment on a BMW, and bought a Rolex right away.
Wow.
So I went from 0 to 10,000 to broke again. So you're hooked in this cycle.
Wow. So you're in this cycle now, Abe, and you've got to be in your heart going, something doesn't feel right. But that's interesting, because I think our listeners and viewers would understand that we can all find ourselves in cycles like that, where we want to get out. We know we should get out. We know we need to run for the hills, but yet we stay and we stay. And you stayed, didn't you?
I did stay. I said to myself, let me just do this a few times. I'll do it a few times, and then I'm done. I'll make enough money, and I won't have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, right away, I put a down payment on a BMW, and I ended up getting a Rolex, and gave my mom a little bit of money. And before you know it, I'm only left with like, $1,500?
Right.
So all of that said and done, I'm calling them, said, hey, when's the next run?
Wow. And Abe, how many, I don't want to get into it real specific, but how many runs did you end up making, probably, would you approximate?
I did it for over a year.
Wow.
I did it over a year. And, there could have been a time where I did 1 run in a month, or I could have done 3 runs in a month. I could have been on the road for 3 weeks straight.
Wow. And looking back on that, and obviously I think people by now are going, oh my gosh, you got caught, didn't you? And I think people are like getting this idea if you got caught, and you did get caught eventually, right?
Yeah. Again, fast crash. I eventually got caught. And, the crazy part is that I actually was pulled over throughout the year. I was pulled over about 4 or 5 times in different states.
Well, it's interesting, how you look at that. And, that business is not a small business. It's very common. It goes on all the time. And it's been going on for, probably, decades, and they'll go on for more decades. And so there's other people out there like you that can fall into that cycle very easily, because it is an attractive draw, isn't it?
Well, so that's a great point and a great statement. Now, because I've lived the journey, I have 2 points of view, 2 perspectives. The perspective, like you mentioned, But then there's another side of it that really is sad that I don't think anyone is aware of. Some of these kids are born into that.
Yeah.
Their fathers were that, and they became that, and then their kids became that, and it's down the line. And that's the saddest thing. So although we know it's all bad, it's horrible, some of these people don't know another life. Now, I fell, I crashed, I learned from it. I'm here to speak about it, but I'm not even here to speak bad about them.
Right.
Because we all have to understand, even that person who was abused. There's so many people with challenges and obstacles in life. They could be sexually abused. They could have drug abuse, alcohol addiction. We don't know what they went through in order for them to become that.
You bring up a good point, because I remember this very clearly. And when I was in law enforcement for a good part of 2 decades, there was a time where I would erroneously look at it as me versus them, or us versus them. And then one day it hit me. There is no difference, because these young people, they don't have father figures. They don't have mentors. They don't have people to look up to. And they would gravitate to anywhere, anybody, anything that would show them compassion, significance, meaning, importance.
Absolutely.
And even if it was wrong. So it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I echo what you're saying from a person who wasn't on your side of the fence at that time. I can tell you that I can tell the listeners that what you're saying is absolutely correct. And we need to really understand that it's people out there, and you're born into a situation and no one knows what shoes you're walking in. They don't know who you are, what you've been. And I realized at that point, Abe, that I was no different. I was no different. I was still a young man, or then an older man, whatever, still not understanding the concept of fatherhood. And when it hit me, I got it. And so I appreciate where you're going with that. So, elaborate more with that, if you would, please.
Yeah. I think it really comes down to humanity. It comes down to having a heart. I put God first, myself second. And when you start to walk into that mindset of God first, Jesus Christ's mission, some people know, some people don't know, and some people don't know God, some people don't know Jesus, and that's okay. I still love them. What's going on right now, we can relate to this pandemic, right?
Yeah.
This pandemic it's creating a psychological imbalance for the world. No one knows what to think. No one knows what to believe, right? It's creating division. It's creating separation. Again, I can't be upset with people that are upset because of the situation, but then we can't be upset on the other side.
That's
right.
right.
Be upset with the police for what's going on. We have good police. We have bad police. We have dumb prisoners and idiots, and we have good prisoners and idiots. So we're human beings.
Yep.
And that is the reality of life. And we can't just judge everyone based on some situation. Not all people, not all inmates or prisoners are horrible, bad people. Not all officers are out abusing people.
Yeah.
So we have to take a step back and understand the person, the individual, and then hopefully try to get an understanding of where they come from. And that's the hard part. Not everyone gets the time for that.
I like that, because, one thing that has really been on my heart for a number of years and it's kept me in check, and it is the idea that I know inside me as a human being that I am capable of anything, both good and bad. Yeah. And so, that keeps me in check, and I hope that keeps us all in check. None of us are perfect. We're all capable to do ignorant, stupid things that we would regret or maybe didn't even pay attention to. But we're also capable of looking at people with a compassion and a love and a sympathy and an understanding, like you're talking about. Now, Abe, you wrote a book, and I don't want to spoil the punchline, but there you had this incredible trailer on the book. How about let's go right there and listen to that right now?
Let's do it.
There's no way I would have ever thought that my life would be headed down this road. I was born and raised in East LA. My father left when I was 4 years old. It was my mom that was left single, raising 2 boys and a girl. Growing up as a child, my dreams ultimately were to make it out of the hood. I thought becoming a professional basketball player or a professional football player would be my reality. What ended up happening was I ended up making my first $30,000, and ultimately that led me to a lot more major success, and I dropped out of college. When all of that ended, it was a very devastating time, but I made the decision to pack up my bags and just move back to LA. Someone approached me one day, all this hard work that you're doing, I can show you how to make way more money, in a weekend's time than what you're doing in 3, 4, 5 months. Drive here, drop this off, that's it. And I got pulled over right there on the turnpike, and Abe Cruz to 10 years in and 25 out. So I go in and, I'm kind of sad, I'm crying, I'm depressed. I was shattered. So I cried for a few days, and then finally I called my mom. But my mom said, don't lose faith. She tells me, son, you have to pray to him and you have to ask him for a second chance, but more importantly, you have to sacrifice. So how do you sacrifice in prison? She tells me, you need to fast for God. That night, I got on my hands and knees, I prayed. I started to dream and have visions every single night. I would wake up every morning and I would write out whatever vision I saw. Forever Faith is simply a message. That's it. It's a message that he gave me to deliver to the rest of the world. I get out of prison. I couldn't get a job. A year later,
trainer and personality Abe Cruz.
Abe Cruz. Con el señor Abe Cruz. Con nosotros Abe Cruz.
Abe Cruz.
Abe Cruz.
Abe el primero.
Vamos, Abe, venga.
¡Estamos! Tranquilo. Abe Cruz, lanza, ahí está.
So that formula, there's an equation. It's very simple. The formula, God first, yourself second, you can't lose. Following God, that's the mindset of champions.
Forever Faith, Mindset of Champions, the Abe Cruz Story, now available in English and Spanish at foreverfaith.com and Amazon.
Wow. Okay, dude, that was like powerful. So seriously now.
Thank you.
The book, I have it right here. Okay, so here you go, man. This is a Christmas gift for you. Abe, when someone reads this book, Forever Faith, the Abe Cruz Story, what's some takeaways?
Wow. I have the formula to success. God first, yourself second. With that formula, you cannot lose. That's the mindset of champions. And I said that in the trailer to echo that. You know, so I try to give little situations of my journey that people can relate to. I'm a normal person, high school, college athlete, made mistakes, dated girls, stupidity along the way. But it doesn't matter where we came from. All that matters is we have faith and we move forward in life.
Abe, does that formula work in all situations?
I'm going to tell you yes. I'm going to tell you, and I didn't want to cut you off earlier, but I disagreed with something you said. And we can have an open discussion, right?
Sure thing, absolutely.
So you said, well, it's true. None of us are perfect. We know that. None of us are perfect. But I truly, from down in my heart, I truly believe that when we fully engage 24/7, 7 days a week, we can get as close to perfection as possible because we're putting God first. And the problem, the obstacle, and the challenge is that there's so much distraction on a daily basis. That's what takes us off course.
Yeah, and we do actually agree on that, because I want to clarify my statement, because when God looks at us, you know, he looks at us as perfect.
Amen.
In that concept.
Amen.
We have the ability within us, by putting God first and us second, to mimic every action of God on this earth. We have that ability.
Amen.
And I want to make sure that our listeners understand this. And those that know me know this is a pet peeve of mine. Never accept mediocrity.
Amen.
Never get up in the morning and say, well, you know, I'm not perfect, I'm going to fall. That's a false statement. You're setting yourself up for error, failure, and mediocrity. And that is not okay. So I appreciate that. I'm glad you clarified that, because I didn't want that going out wrong. So thank you.
Well, you know, that's what's needed is sometimes a little bit of explanation and clarification, but it's so simple.
It is. And Abe, I tell you, your book is obviously it's inspirational, because people always like the comeback story. But the overriding theme of this book is really a mindset that is a mindset of God. It's a mindset of a kingdom that's like living in a way that's maybe peculiar, counterculture. Would you agree with those statements?
100%. And I can only speak on my behalf, and then seeing the world and all of the daily chaoses and distractions. But fortunately and unfortunately for me, it wasn't until I hit rock bottom that I was able to fully engage and understand that. When I fasted in prison, I started to visualize and have dreams from God where he started to talk to me. And just like a father would scold us and slap us around, our Father does that as well. So he spoke to me and gave me these visions, but it was like I had to make a deal with God. And God has an incredible sense of humor. He will get upset and let you know about it as well. And I tell people all the time, we're in a constant communication, 24/7, 7 days a week, 365. It's not a part-time thing. No. So when we understand that and we engage in it, we are lifted to a different spiritual dimension. That is 100% true. Because your life, you can feel the spiritual balance where God is just injected into you, and he's walking with you all day long.
Hey, there's two things. There's two groups of people out here now. And I think we talked about this before coming on. You know where I'm going to go with this. There's one group of persons out there that says, come on, Abe, man, what about this God thing? Seriously, dude? And there's another group out there that says, man, I get you. I am hurting right now. Talk to both groups, will you?
Well, to the group that questions it or doesn't believe it or doesn't understand it, the first thing I do is just hug them. It's okay. It's okay. Remember, before prison, my mom told me about God. My mom prayed with me, but I'm not sure it really registered. It went in through one ear and out the other. So what I would say to them is I would give them a hug, tell them I love them, tell them, don't worry about it, guys. God still loves you. Your Father still loves you. He's here for you. It just means that, trust me, your path is not going to be very smooth. And even when you do acknowledge him, the path is not going to be super smooth. He is a Father of strength. He is a Father of endurance. He is a Father of building to perfection. So we have to go through the fire. We have to go through hell, right? In order to come out that other side. So it's okay, but we still love you. We still support you. And if you don't go, I don't go to church all the time, and I don't think it's necessary for people to have to go to church. It's great. And I do go to church once in a while when I'm invited to different places. But again, 24/7, 7 days a week. I'm there all day, every day with him. Right now, you and I are in a bond. Two people agree on a word. He is here with us. That is for sure. So that's all I would say to them. And I would still love them. I would encourage them. And this is what I would say. That's fine. Just look at it this way. If there is no God and you don't believe that, and you're in a problem, there's no hope for you anyway. So at least believe that there is a God and have a hope that he is there to save you. Even if you don't believe him, just know that he's there. He can give you that second chance. So miracles don't happen without tragedies or disaster. So we need that.
That's good. Now, the other group has stated, they're going, Abe, I get you, man. And I'm in that place right now. I am in a spiral of behavior that I don't want to be in. I know I shouldn't be there. What do you say to them?
But they do believe in God, but they're in a spiral?
Yes.
Well, I would tell them, don't be discouraged. Again, don't be discouraged. You are going to be okay. We have trials. We have obstacles. That is part of daily life. But know this. I'm telling you, this is the formula. And I'm going to tell you as my testimony, when I put God first and myself second, my entire life changed. So I'm going to encourage you to do the same thing. Let's focus on it. Let's take a step back, because reality in this world distracts us with music, with movies and entertainment. I mean, we're going to do movies, but we're going to do powerful, positive movies. Okay. But there's so much other film out there that's so wrong. Mm-hmm. It's so wrong. It takes our minds into a horrible direction that's creating divorces, that's creating fights, that's creating abuse, stuff that is not good. As I get into the music, I was driving cross country when I got in trouble, right? Mm-hmm. When I was driving, the music I was listening to was actually saying everything that I was doing. They were talking about it. They were talking about transporting cocaine from state to state to make money so they can go buy a car, so they can go to the club, so they can go buy jewelry. That psychologically and spiritually takes people into the wrong direction. They don't even realize it.
You know, you mentioned a couple principles throughout this whole podcast that I just want to restate, because it's that important. You become like the people you hang out with.
Amen.
That's a powerful testimony. That can be good or bad.
Yes, right.
Bad company can corrupt the best people. Good company can influence the worst people.
Right.
And the best company that we can have is understanding that perhaps God is real. For those of us that know him,
amen,
it's an answer yes. And for those of you that don't, the key is to seek, to ask, to look, and you will find. Abe,
you shall find. Amen.
I believe that. Now, your book here, again, I want to hold, this is my copy. No one can have this because it's signed by Mr. Cruz right here to me.
Yes.
Right? The chapters here are very easy to read, the little bite-sized chapters. That's why I love it. So well done. I want people to get the book, Forever Faith, because this is a time in history, folks, where we need some hope. And if you want a good book that offers hope, it's a story of someone you met today. You get to know them personally, and that's a good thing. It's not just a story in the pages. You heard the man speak. You heard his heart. And I want to encourage you to get the book. There's links below this feed to his website, foreverfaith.com, which you can see right there on the screen, as well as the trailer. If you want to see it again, it's right there below. That thing is powerful, man. I like it. And
Mark,
get the
I want
book.
to share one thing.
Please do. Yeah.
So I didn't know all of this at the time. You know, in life, we just kind of run blindly. So in prison, when my mom told me not to lose faith, okay, I started to fast. I started to dream. I started to have visions. The first biggest vision that I wrote out was forever faith on a napkin, on prison paperwork, forever faith. Now, this was in 2006, 2007. I didn't get out till like 2010, 11. So I'd written this way, way, way before. And in the Bible, the father of faith is Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Abraham. Abe is just short. They call me Abe. They call me Honest Abe or, Abe. But my name is Abraham Joshua Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
So as I started moving further into this journey that I'm in, I started to just see so much symbology. And 777, I wrote it down in prison, 888. I started to see these visions. And when I got out, what are the chances that foreverfaith.com would be available? What are the chances that Forever Faith trademark company would be available? Statistically, some church or some other ministry should have taken it 100 years ago. So statistics, again, as I've never liked them, and I always spoke in faith, but statistically, none of this makes any sense. So if none of this makes any sense from an educational statistical standpoint, what does that mean? Is it a coincidence that Abraham in 2020 has a company and wrote a book, and everything that the brand stands for is a message? I have products. We have clothing, supplements, jewelry. The book is a product, but it's the message that we're giving to the world. And maybe I believe that this is the time for the message, because I wrote that book 3 years ago. But guess what? For whatever reason, it was delayed on the release. It was somebody said, no, it's not ready. Oh, let's do this. Let's change it. Then I went on a TV show. Then this happened. Nope, it's not ready. Let's redo it. It got delayed. And now with this pandemic, I see so much division. I see so much chaos. And I'm not into politics. And as a man serving God, I'm going to say this, and please don't hate me, anybody. From both sides, I love both sides. I'm here to help everybody. We're here to help people. If somebody is lost and confused, we're not supposed to judge them and tell them, oh, they're lost. Get rid of them. They're idiots. That's not our job. Our job is to hug them and hold them and say, I'm not even going to mention that they're lost and confused. I'm just going to hug them. So with all of that being said, 2020, the pandemic, we're headed into 2021. New beginnings is 888. I think 888, new beginnings and forever faith is the message for the world. We're okay.
Amen. And I think, Abe, a lot of people need that today. You're right. We all need to take a step back and breathe. And my wife and I, like you, support that message 1,000%, because, as we go into this new year, our prayer, I think you would agree with me, Abe, is that we would all take a fresh perspective and perhaps put God first once again and see what happens. And I think that's the message, Abe. I appreciate that so much, man.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, Abe, I am grateful. I want to, just commend you for stepping up and not stepping back, for speaking up without fear, with complete courage and complete confidence. And I know everybody's been blessed today as well as I have. So I honor you and thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. It's really cool.
Amen. Thank you so much. I'm truly grateful. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you are, Abe Cruz. And that's another edition of Healthcare is Missing Link. And one thing I always ask you to do is to subscribe below and find out who and what is coming next. Make sure, once again, to avail yourself to the resources from Mr. Cruz and his team. They're right below here again. And we will look forward to seeing you on the next edition of Healthcare is Missing Link. Until next time, your best health.